I remember standing in a room I had spent 5 years imagining. It was perfect. The lighting was curated, the furniture was an investment in my own status, and the view showed a city I had finally conquered. But as I stood there, I realized that the satisfaction I expected wasn't coming. It was like reaching the summit of a mountain only to find it shrouded in a thick gray fog. I had believed in a specific promise, that once the external landscape matched the internal ambition, the restlessness would cease. This is the quiet weight of the destination myth. We build our lives around when and then, convinced that a certain coordinate in time or wealth contains a permanent emotional rest, only to find the horizon has moved again. In the world I move through, success is often measured by how many variables we can control. We seek the right title, the right neighborhood, and the right portfolio balance. By 2026, the metrics of a good life have become so standardized that we can almost purchase them as a kit. I see it in the eyes of my peers, highly capable people who have checked every box on the list of adult achievements. We have optimized our careers for stability and our homes for aesthetics. Yet, there is a recurring conversation happening in quiet corners of coffee shops. It's the admission that even though the spreadsheet says we've won, the lived experience feels remarkably like we're still waiting for the game to actually begin. We have arrived, but we don't feel present. The shadow side of this achievement is a subtle, persistent grief. When we tie our sense of worth to a specific outcome, we inadvertently sign a contract with future disappointment. If the joy is only in the obtaining, what remains once the object is obtained? I've noticed that the more I focus on the arrival, the more I neglect the capacity to actually inhabit my own skin. We prioritize the collection of markers, but the cost is often the ability to feel the texture of our own days. It's a trade-off where we sacrifice the current moment for a hypothetical future peace that is chemically impossible to sustain. We are essentially working a job to pay for a life we are too exhausted to actually live. What if I stopped looking at my life as a series of destinations and started seeing it as a continuous unfolding? It's a difficult shift to make when every social signal rewards the arrived state. I am learning to sit with the discomfort of the middle. Before we go deeper into this exploration together, I'd love for you to join this journey of self-discovery with me. Perhaps we can look at these patterns not as things to be solved, but as dynamics to be understood. Integrating the destination myth means realizing that the mountaintop isn't for living, it's for a view. The living happens in the climb, in the stumble, and in the breath we take between steps. I'm beginning to see that the void I felt wasn't a sign of failure, but a sign that I had stopped moving. It's time to start moving again, but with a different intention. There is a biological mechanism within us that is both our greatest strength and our quietest curse. We are designed to adapt. When something wonderful happens, a raise, a new home, a significant milestone, our internal baseline shifts. For a few weeks, the world feels vibrant and new, but slowly, the extraordinary becomes the ordinary. I've watched this happen with my own luxuries. The things I once considered once-in-a-lifetime experiences eventually became the standard I expected. This isn't because we are ungrateful. It's because our brains are wired to scan for the next challenge. We are biologically predisposed to seek more, not because more is better, but because our ancestors survived by never being fully satisfied with enough. We are living in a modern world with ancient, restless hardware. In our current urban reality, this adaptation is accelerated by the sheer speed of consumption. We are constantly offered the next version of everything. I find myself looking at my phone, which was a marvel of engineering 2 years ago, and feeling a slight pang of inadequacy because a newer model exists. This is the treadmill in action. We increase our spending and our lifestyle expectations to keep up with a baseline that is constantly being moved by external forces. We buy a better car, and for a month, the commute is a joy. Then, it's just the car. We move into a larger space, and within a season, the extra square footage is just more space to clean. We are running faster and faster just to stay in the same emotional place, often without realizing the energy it's draining. The hidden cost of this constant adaptation is a loss of perspective. When we are always adjusting to a higher standard of living, we lose the ability to find joy in the fundamental. I felt this as a kind of emotional numbness. If everything has to be premium to be noticed, then nothing is truly special. The trade-off is clear. We prioritize immediate comfort and status, but the cost is a long-term depletion of our capacity for wonder. We become connoisseurs of the best, but amateurs at being satisfied. It creates a functional depression, not a clinical one perhaps, but a state where the colors of life feel muted because we've overstimulated our sense of reward. We are winning the race, but we've forgotten why we started running in the first place. Coexisting with this trait requires a radical kind of awareness. It's not about denying ourselves progress, but about recognizing the diminishing returns of the more cycle. I've started asking myself, is this an upgrade in my quality of life, or just an upgrade in my expectations? What if we intentionally kept our baseline lower than our income? There is a quiet power in having the means for a louder life, but choosing a softer one. It creates a buffer, a space where we can actually feel the impact of a special occasion because our everyday isn't already saturated with luxury. Integration looks like honoring our drive to grow without letting it become a drive to simply accumulate. I am trying to find the rhythm where I can appreciate the new without it becoming the new required. It's about learning to be okay with good so that great still has meaning. We have spent the last century trying to eliminate friction from our lives. We want the fastest internet, the most efficient routes, and the most seamless services. I've realized that my life is incredibly convenient. I can have almost anything delivered to my door within hours. But there is a paradox here. As life becomes more efficient, it often feels more sterile. Friction is where the heat of life is generated. It's in the unexpected conversation with a neighbor, the effort of building something with our hands, or the minor struggle of navigating a new place. When we remove all the resistance, we remove the opportunities for meaningful engagement. Our spirits seem to need a certain amount of weight to push against to feel truly alive. In our current landscape, we pay for services to avoid the very tasks that once grounded us. We outsource the cleaning, the cooking, and even the thinking. I see this in how I manage my own day. I use apps to track my steps, my sleep, and my spending. It's all very organized, yet I often feel like a spectator in my own existence. We've traded the messiness of direct experience for the cleanliness of data. This sterile life is objectively better on paper. We are safer, cleaner, and more productive, but it lacks the soul of a life lived with dirt under the fingernails. We are optimizing for a life that is so smooth we can't find a handhold. We are living in a gallery of our own achievements, but we aren't allowed to touch the art. The shadow side of total convenience is a fragility that creeps into our character. When we never have to wait, never have to struggle, and never have to fix things ourselves, our resilience atrophies. I've noticed that small inconveniences now feel like personal affronts. A delayed flight or a slow internet connection can ruin a day. This is the trade-off. We prioritize immediate emotional safety and ease, but the cost is our long-term clarity and strength. We have become experts at avoiding discomfort, but in doing so, we've forgotten how to handle it. We are living in a golden cage of our own design, where the bars are made of high-speed fiber optics and premium delivery services. The safety is real, but so is the stagnation. We are comfortable, but we are also incredibly bored at a cellular level. Integrating this means intentionally reintroducing hard things into our schedule. I've started looking for places where I can add friction back in. Maybe it's walking instead of driving, or learning a craft that requires months of failure before I see a result. It's not about being a martyr. It's about recognizing that satisfaction is a byproduct of effort. What if we viewed our chores not as obstacles to our real life, but as the foundation of it? When I engage in a task that requires my full presence and physical effort, the void seems to shrink. I am finding that the most productive thing I can do for my soul is something that has no financial payout. It's a shift from being a consumer of ease to being a producer of effort. I am learning that I don't need a life that is easier. I need a life that is more demanding in the right ways. We are the first generation of humans who are constantly aware of how everyone else is living, or at least how they want us to think they are living. I can't scroll for 5 minutes without being confronted by a better version of my own life. A better kitchen, a more harmonious family, a more adventurous weekend. Even when I know it's a curated performance, the lizard brain doesn't care. It registers a gap. This is the weight of comparison. Our enough is no longer determined by our own needs, but by the highest performing 1% of the people we follow. We are measuring our messy interiors against other people's polished exteriors. This creates a low-grade, persistent anxiety, a feeling that we are somehow falling behind a race we never signed up for. In our modern cities, this is even more pronounced. We are surrounded by the physical manifestations of other people's success. Every car, every outfit, every restaurant choice is a signal. I've felt the pressure to perform my own life for an invisible audience. We start to make choices, not based on what brings us joy, but based on what will look like joy to others. We spend money on the experience primarily so we can document the experience. This turns our lives into a brand to be managed rather than a reality to be felt. We are living in a hall of mirrors where every reflection is filtered, and we've lost the ability to see our own true face in the midst of all the glare. Our financial choices become performances rather than reflections of our values. The shadow of constant comparison is the total erosion of the concept of enough. When the goalpost is attached to someone else's success, it is, by definition, always moving. I've seen people with millions feel poor because they are in the wrong room. This is a psychological trap that no amount of money can solve. The trade-off is devastating. We prioritize social standing and the avoidance of FOMO, but the cost is our peace of mind. We are essentially allowing strangers to dictate our levels of satisfaction. It creates a functional depression, where you feel guilty for being unhappy because you have so much, but you can't stop looking at what you don't have. It's a poverty of the spirit that exists even in the midst of material plenty. We have replaced our internal compass with a crowdsourced map that leads nowhere. What if we looked at our lives as a private garden rather than a public park? I am trying to cultivate a sense of enough that is entirely independent of what my neighbor or my feed is doing. This requires a radical kind of honesty about what actually makes me feel content. I've realized that my rich life might actually look very modest to someone else, and that has to be okay. Integration here means using technology as a tool for connection, rather than a yardstick for value. It's about logging off when the comparison starts to itch and returning to the physical reality of my own room, my own breath, and my own actual people. I am learning that the only person I need to be better than is the version of me that was too distracted to notice the sun hitting the floor this morning. The race ends the moment I stop running. There is a hidden tax on everything we own. It's not just the purchase price, it's the mental space it occupies. I look around my home and see objects that I once thought would complete me. Now, they are just things I have to clean, insure, repair, or worry about. Every possession is a small anchor, and enough anchors will keep a ship from moving at all. I've started to feel the weight of my perfect life. The more things I have, the more I feel managed by them, rather than the other way around. We think we are acquiring objects to serve us, but often we become the servants of our objects. We work to pay for the storage of things we rarely use, in a cycle that feels increasingly absurd. Our modern environment is a masterclass in accumulation. We are told that our homes are canvases for our personality, so we fill them with decor, gadgets, and essentials. But I've noticed that when my physical space is crowded, my mental space feels similarly cramped. It's hard to have a clear thought in a room full of unfinished projects and impulse buys. We are living in a time where more is the default setting. We have more information, more choices, and more stuff than any humans in history, but I've never seen a group of people more overwhelmed. We have optimized our lives for variety, but we've lost the clarity that comes with simplicity. Our homes have become warehouses for our anxieties, each object representing a someday that never actually arrives. The shadow side of a high-consumption lifestyle is the maintenance trap. We think we are buying freedom, but we are actually buying obligations. A larger house means more maintenance. A complex portfolio means more time with an accountant. A high-end car means more specific service needs. The trade-off is subtle. We prioritize the immediate status of the object, but the cost is our most precious resource, our attention. I've realized that the good life I built for myself was actually stealing my time. I was spending my weekends managing my possessions rather than experiencing my life. It's a form of slavery that we willingly enter because it's decorated with such beautiful things. We are rich in objects, but poor in the bandwidth required to actually enjoy them. We are drowning in the very things we thought would keep us afloat. What if we measured our wealth not by what we have, but by what we can do without? I am experimenting with the idea of decluttering as a psychological act. It's not just about getting rid of clothes. It's about getting rid of the versions of myself that I bought those clothes for. Every time I let go of an object I was keeping just in case, I feel a small burst of mental oxygen. Integration looks like moving toward a life that is lighter and more mobile. It's about choosing quality over quantity, and then choosing even less than that. I'm finding that gratitude is much easier to access when there's less noise in the room. When we have fewer things to manage, we have more room for the things that can't be managed, like joy, presence, and connection. I'm learning that the most beautiful room is the one that has enough space for the people in it to breathe. Stay simply human. I've spent most of my life thinking about money as a way to buy things. Only recently have I started to see it as a way to buy time. There is a profound difference between being rich and being free. I know people who have staggering bank balances but zero control over their Tuesday afternoons. They are on call. They are in meetings. They are beholden to a schedule that someone else wrote for them. To me, that is a gilded cage. True wealth is the ability to wake up and ask, what do I want to do today? And actually have the sovereignty to answer that question. It's the shift from thinking of money as a goal to thinking of it as a fuel for autonomy. In our current work culture, we are often encouraged to trade our most vibrant years for a promised future of leisure. We sell our hours at a discount to an employer, hoping that one day we will have enough stored time to finally live. But time is a decaying asset. It doesn't wait for the bank balance to catch up. I see so many people in their 30s and 40s who are successful but completely time poor. We have optimized for the hourly rate but ignored the lifestyle cost. We are participating in a 24-hour auction where our presence is sold to the highest bidder. We have the fancy coffee and the ergonomic chair, but we don't have the freedom to simply sit in the sun for an hour. Our schedules are masterpieces of efficiency and deserts of spontaneity. The shadow of seeking financial security is the golden handcuffs. We reach a certain income level and then immediately increase our expenses to match it. Suddenly, we need the high-paying job just to sustain the life the job gave us. The trade-off is clear. We prioritize immediate lifestyle inflation, but the cost is our long-term exit strategy. We become afraid to take risks, to pivot, or to slow down because the overhead of our perfect life is too high. This creates a state of persistent, low-grade stress. We are running a race we can't afford to lose, which means we can never really stop to see where we are. We are rich on paper, but trapped in reality. We have traded our sovereignty for a premium subscription to a life we are too busy to enjoy. What if the ultimate financial skill isn't making more, but needing less? If I can lower my burn rate, I immediately increase my freedom. I am learning to trade the potential for more for the reality of now. This might mean choosing a smaller house, a less prestigious title, or a slower career path if it means I own my mornings. Integration looks like realizing that money's greatest value is its ability to give you options. It's about building a life where you are the primary architect of your own time. I'm trying to move from a mindset of accumulation to a mindset of sovereignty. I want to be able to say no to things that drain me, even if they pay well, because in the end, the only thing we truly own is our attention, and I want to spend mine on something I actually care about. I've noticed that my unhappiest moments often occur when I am in pure consumer mode, when I am just eating, watching, buying, and resting. There is a common belief that the goal of life is to reach a state of total leisure, a permanent vacation. But I found that the human spirit actually thrives on being useful. We need to be needed. We need to produce, to create, and to contribute to something outside of our own skin. This is the productive struggle. It's the feeling of being slightly overmatched by a task and having to grow to meet it. Without this, even the most luxurious life feels empty. We weren't built for a life of pure reception. We were built for a life of participation. Our modern world is designed to turn us into passive vessels. We are fed content, fed food, and fed opinions. I've fallen into the trap of thinking that self-care means doing nothing. But often, the most restorative thing I can do is actually something difficult. It's the difference between watching a movie and writing a letter, or between ordering a meal and cooking one for friends. We have optimized for a life of ease, but we've neglected our need for agency. When we only consume, we lose the sense of our own impact on the world. We become like ghosts, moving through life without leaving a trace. This consumer depression is the result of having our inputs maximized and our outputs minimized. We are full, but we are not nourished. The shadow side of a life focused solely on personal success is a subtle kind of narcissism. When we spend all our energy on our own health, our own wealth, and our own happiness, our world becomes very small. The trade-off is that we prioritize our own emotional safety, but the cost is the depth of our connection to the collective. I've realized that the void I felt was partly because my goals didn't have any room for anyone else. There was no we in my winning. This creates a sense of isolation even in a crowded room. We are achieving our goals, but those goals aren't serving anything larger than our own ego. We are building monuments to ourselves that no one else wants to visit. The perfect life is a lonely one if it's entirely self-referential. What if the cure for our hollow success is to start looking outward? I'm learning that joy is often the byproduct of being useful to someone else. It could be as small as helping a neighbor, or as large as volunteering for a cause I believe in. It's the shift from asking, "What can I get?" to "What can I give?" When I move from a consumer mindset to a producer mindset, the internal reward system changes. I move from the quick hit of dopamine to the long-term glow of serotonin. Integration looks like finding a way to weave contribution into the fabric of my daily life. It's not about adding another task to the to-do list. It's about changing the intention behind the tasks. I am finding that my life feels more meaningful when it's a tool for something bigger. I'm learning that we are most ourselves when we are giving ourselves away. Having it all is a heavy burden if you don't know who you are without it. I've come to see that the hole I felt wasn't a sign that something was missing from my life, but a sign that I was missing from my life. I had built a masterpiece and then walked out of the frame. We spend so much time trying to fix the external conditions, the job, the money, the house, that we forget that the experience of life happens from the inside out. You aren't depressed because your life is bad. You are often depressed because your life is a work of art that you've stopped participating in. You've become the curator of a gallery instead of the artist in the studio. I'm looking at my life now, not as a portfolio to be optimized, but as an experience to be inhabited. This requires a constant alignment audit. Is my spending reflecting my values or my fears? Is my schedule reflecting my priorities or my obligations? I'm learning to be okay with the messy, the unfinished, and the not quite right, because those are the places where there is still room to grow. We don't need a perfect life. We need a life that fits us. We need a life that has enough friction to keep us grounded and enough freedom to let us breathe. It's about trading the ideal for the actual. I am choosing to be present for the life I have, rather than waiting for the life I want. The masterpiece is in the living. As we close this reflection, I want to ask you a question that I've been asking myself. Look at the trade-offs you are currently making. Are you prioritizing immediate emotional safety at the cost of long-term clarity? Are you sacrificing your time for a version of success that doesn't actually feed your soul? Which of these dynamics, the arrival fallacy, the treadmill, the weight of objects, resonates most with where you are right now? There is no right answer, only an honest one. I've found that simply acknowledging the trade-off is the first step toward changing it. We don't have to fix everything at once. We just have to start looking at our lives with a bit more curiosity and a bit less judgment. We are all just trying to figure out what it means to be human in a world that wants us to be machines. Thank you for spending this time with me. This journey toward a more aligned life isn't a quick fix or a secret hack. It's a slow, beautiful, and sometimes difficult process of returning to ourselves. I hope you find the courage to let go of the perfect and embrace the real. I hope you find the friction that makes you feel alive and the freedom that makes you feel sovereign. Your life is a masterpiece, not because it's finished, but because you are the one painting it. Keep looking for the alignment, keep asking the hard questions, and above all, remember that you are allowed to be a work in progress. Stay simply human.